Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Friday. Thank you all for being with us. If you're here, you know we've got another exciting program for you today with this continued series of VCHealth. This is an initiative we kicked off back in January, focusing on mental health, entrepreneurship, and a topic that has to do with those two. And this month, we're shining a light on social media. Everyone loves social media, but I think we all dislike it, in the same regard. So we're going to talk through that today with Ken and Bruce, the love-hate relationship we, seem to all have with the social media, specifically entrepreneurs. It's a part of your business and how you promote and engage with your audiences. So we're going to look at that. You might know our panelists, Bruce Trimble, the Director of Business Development at the Bridgeway, along with Ken Clark, the CEO and founder of Chenal Family Therapy. We're going to hear more from them in a moment. Our sponsors, though, I want to thank our sponsors, the Bridgeway and Chenal Family Therapy, of course, and our corporate sponsors, Frost Accounting Firm, Wright Lindsay Jennings, Little Rock Chamber, and Simmons Bank. Thank you to all of those supporters of our community programs. Some of those programs that we have coming up, if you attended last month's VCHealth, we discussed failure. We had Bruce and Ken and a panel of entrepreneurs come on and talk to us about failure, what it means, how do you navigate that? How do you recover from it? And that was a hot topic and one that people had a lot of questions on and wanted to make comments and that sort of thing. So on Monday, we're actually trying something a little different. If you're familiar with Clubhouse, maybe you are, maybe you aren't. We're hosting another discussion on failure on Clubhouse at 1:30 on Monday. So you can register for that and find more information on our website. Also, the next day on Tuesday, June 29th, we're hosting a Pitch and Pint. We've partnered with other entrepreneur support organizations across the state, Venture Noir and the ASB TDC, and corporate partners and other groups. This is a pitch competition focused on people of color, women, and veterans that have been affected by COVID, whose businesses have been negatively affected by COVID. So you're going to hear 10 pitches on Tuesday from 3 to 4:30. They're all going to pitch. Judges are going to pick their favorite. The audience will pick their favorite. And in total, $31,000 is being given away on Tuesday. So that's fantastic and remarkable. And we're looking forward to that. So if you haven't registered for that one yet, please do so. That's going to be an exciting and fun event. It's always fun to give away free money, right? So please join us for that and listen to some incredible pitches from local businesses. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Bruce to kick it off, and Ken, of course, will follow up. So Bruce, take it away.
Good afternoon. Let me share my screen. All right, can you see that?
We sure can.
Outstanding. Well, good afternoon. It's encouraging to see so many people interested in mental health. As we get started, I want to let you know that April McSpadden, who is a licensed clinician, is available from noon to 1:30 today to assist those who may be affected by these topics. She can be reached at 501-733-9789. There's no charge for this initial consultation, and it is confidential. After those hours, you can call the Chenal Family Therapy, the Bridgeway, or another provider. Today, we will discuss the following: the history of social media, mental health, social media and mental health, and I'll share some mental health apps. So where were you in 1992 or 2002 or 2011? Human beings are social creatures who require the companionship of others to make progress in life. Thus, being socially connected with other people can relieve stress, anxiety, and sadness, but a lack of social connection can pose severe risks to mental health. Social media has recently become part of people's daily activities. Many spend hours a day on Messenger, Instagram, Facebook, and other platforms. There's no denying that social media has become part of our daily lives. Researchers and scholars study the impact of social media and its impact on our lives. This slide shows the gender distribution of social media audiences worldwide as of January 2020, sorted by platform. It was found that only 38% of Twitter users were male, but 61% were using Snapchat. In contrast, females were more likely to use LinkedIn and Facebook. Social media has many positive benefits, but it can also lead to mental health problems. Previous research showed that age did not affect mental health as it relates to social media usage, but gender did. Females were much more likely to experience mental health issues than males. So what is mental health? Mental health is defined as a state of well-being in which people understand their abilities, solve everyday life problems, work well, and make a significant contribution to their communities. Social networking is a crucial element in protecting our mental health. Both the quantity and quality of social relationships affect mental health, health behavior, physical health, and even our mortality risk. There are positive aspects of social media. While virtual interaction on social media doesn't have the same psychological benefits as face-to-face contact, there are still many positive ways to help you stay connected and support your well-being. Social media enables you to communicate and stay up to date with family and friends no matter where they are. Find new friends and communities. Join or promote worthwhile causes. Seek or offer emotional support during difficult times. Find a vital social connection if you live in a remote area or have limited independence, social anxiety, or are part of a marginalized group. Find an outlet for your creativity and self-expression, and discover sources of valuable information and learning. Since it's relatively a new technology, there's little research to establish the long-term consequences, good or bad, of social media use. However, multiple studies have found a strong link between heavy social media use and an increased risk for depression, anxiety, loneliness, self-harm, and even suicidal thoughts. Social media may promote negative experiences such as inadequacy about your life or appearance, fear of missing out or FOMO, isolation, depression and anxiety, cyberbullying, and self-absorption. Excessive social media use can create a negative self-perpetuating cycle. When you feel lonely, depressed, anxious, or stressed, you tend to use social media more often. Using social media more often increases the FOMO and feelings of inadequacy, dissatisfaction, and isolation. In turn, these feelings negatively affect your mood and worsen symptoms of depression, anxiety, and stress. And these worsening symptoms cause you to use social media even more, so the downward spiral continues. 69% of adults and 81% of teens in the US use social media. This puts a large population at increased risk of feeling anxious, depressed, or ill over their social media use. But there's an app for that, somewhat. I've selected my top 7 apps that can assist in supporting our mental health. We'll start with the suicide prevention apps. Suicide is the leading cause of death among Americans, tragically taking over 45,000 lives per year. While I'm not suggesting that an app alone can save lives, it can be an excellent resource to go along with counseling and mental health lifelines. My 3 is designed to help those stay safe while having thoughts of suicide. It's free and lets you customize your safety plan by noting your warning signs, listing coping strategies, and connecting you to helpful resources to reach out when you need them most. Not Okay is a free app developed by a struggling teenager for teenagers. The app features a large red button that can be activated to let close friends, family, and their support network know that help is needed. Here are some mental health apps. What's Up is a free app that uses cognitive behavioral therapy and acceptance commitment therapy methods to help you cope with depression, anxiety, stress, and more. Mood Kit uses the foundation of cognitive behavioral therapy and provides users with over 200 different mood improvement activities. This app costs $4.99 for Apple users. And here are some addiction apps. 24 Hours a Day is based on the best-selling book of the same name. This free app offers 366 meditations from the book, making it easier for people recovering from addiction to focus on sobriety wherever they are. Quit That is a free app that helps users beat their habits or addictions. And the top app I have for you today is nature. Being in nature or even viewing scenes of nature reduces anger, fear, and stress and increases pleasant feelings. Exposure to nature not only makes you feel better emotionally, it contributes to your physical well-being, reducing blood pressure, heart rate, muscle tension, and the production of stress hormones. And it's free and it doesn't require any device. So again, is there an app for that? Not really. These new digital tools will be used as a supplement to traditional therapy or for those who aren't able to access the support of a mental health practitioner. Instead, mental health apps offer valuable support and guidance. And speaking of guidance and support, it's my honor now to hand it off to my friend and colleague, Ken Clark.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me back. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Ken Clark. I am both a licensed and marriage and family therapist, as well as a three-time Inc. 5000 CEO. I run a large company here in Little Rock that is scaling dramatically and has done so for the last 10 years. Social media has been part of that journey for better and worse in a whole lot of ways. So I want to talk about that first by talking about an anecdote from my own journey. This was probably 3 or 4 years into running our practice. We had finally made a little bit of money and weren't a cash-strapped startup family. We had begun flying more and more back to California, where we're from. Flying enough, in fact, that I got upgraded to first class and am sitting on the tarmac in Little Rock, very, very proud of myself, thinking, gosh, this feels pretty cool. I feel like I've made it. And I get on my phone while we're waiting for the plane to finish loading. And I see one of my buddies who is a knucklehead, was a knucklehead in college. And this person had climbed the ladder and become a very, very important person at a very large company. And there was a picture of him and some of his friends on the corporate jet from that company. And I remember immediately going from being proud of myself, like, look what I accomplished, to I literally sat there in first class thinking, I've done nothing with the last 15 years of my life, right? Like that moment of comparison took all the joy out of what I had built and what I was savoring and ruined it in an instant, right? And that's the power of social media. A lot of our company was built, our mental health practice was built over social media. The word was spread over social media. We're part of a lot of online forums where people look for recommendations and referrals and all that. So it's been a huge part of our success, and it's been part of some of our most difficult and defeated moments. So I want to give you some tips, some rules for the road that are really as much from my experience as anything in between 0 and 200 employees. How have I learned to manage this? And I want to start with the concept that it really can go any way on any day, right? I grew up in California. One of the things they tell you when you grow up near the beach is don't ever turn your back on the ocean. You never know when that wave's coming out of nowhere. And the same thing is true with social media. Don't ever take social media for granted. Don't ever think that it can't bite you in an instant, right? And so with that in mind, I want to talk about emotional sobriety as a concept, right? Because I think at ground zero of what I've evolved into as a consumer of social media is this awareness and deliberateness about emotional sobriety. So what is emotional sobriety? Emotional sobriety is a term that gets thrown around a lot in recovery and addiction circles. What it really means for me is that there are certain emotions, certain conversations, certain interactions that I don't get to drink from. I don't get to partake with because they are instantly intoxicating for me. I lose who I am. I lose my bearings when I participate in certain conversations or allow myself to go down certain rabbit holes. It's not just that we're level emotion or whatever. Like somebody who's attempting to stay sober from alcohol. They don't go to a wine tasting, even though they're not supposed to drink the wine, right? Like they just know they can't even go there. And so emotional sobriety with social media is about identifying in yourself and watching out for on social media conversations that you cannot be part of, right? It's conversations that if I go down this road, I'm going to get unhealthy really quick. And because of the nature of social media, because it's instantaneous, those can pop up anywhere. A la, don't turn your back on the ocean, right? So I want to talk through some things that kind of have helped me manage my emotional sobriety around social media. Number one, from a personal point of view, I want to encourage you to make a commitment to self to only use social media to document the joy in life. Hear me again. Only use social media to document the joy in life. Your mom or your grandma or your dad or whoever told you if you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all. They were right, and especially right when it comes to social media, right? It is so easy for us to get on there and rant and vent and talk about how American Airlines lost our luggage or whatever. But what we know is that when people do that, when they fire up their brain and use their brain to calculate the negative, to stew, to rant, to mic drop, to do whatever, right? It impacts the way that they see the rest of the world, not just in that moment, but the rest of the day, the week, right? And that's before it even boomerangs back around and affects them because it affected somebody else. So commit to using social media as your documenter of joy, even from a business point of view, right? Don't be the person that goes on there and posts negative articles about customer service and this is why we do it at our company. Don't. It's not worth it. You really don't gain anything from it. Be somebody who spreads joy. Talk about the successes in the business world, in the private world, etc. Number two, ditch the toxic connections. Get rid of the people, or at least figure out how to stop seeing the content they're putting out that is negative. That may mean certain news sites. That may mean your aunt or uncle who posts conspiracy theories all day long. It doesn't matter, but those things being a constant inbound are going to have an impact on you. If nothing else, the person in your workplace who also buys into those conspiracy theories, right, whichever side of the fence they're on, after you had that steady diet of it from grandma, and you walk into work and somebody says, hey, by the way, did you hear? You're going to snap on them because of that exposure that you've had all day long sitting around your house on the weekend reading that negativity. So I don't care if you unfollow, right? Which you can do these things, Google them. You can stop seeing people's stuff without having to stop being their friend, but you can get rid of this negative content. Or if it comes down to it, especially with unimportant, unsignificant connections to you, ditch the negativity. It's not helping you. It's just hurting you. Control your consumption. We have become reflexive in how we use social media. Social media is what we do when we're standing in line at the bank. It's what we do when we're passing the time waiting for a plane to take off, right? It's how we unwind at night. We reflexively go to social media now to fill the time. And it's a bad idea, right? It's going to something and saying this is a 50-50 chance this is going to leave me healthier or unhealthy, but that's my go-to for unwinding, right? It's like saying I'm going to go to the gym and I'll either work out or I'll eat 3 cheese pizzas. I just don't know yet. We'll see how it goes, right? Like that's a bad plan if your plan is to get into shape. So control your consumption. Be deliberate about it. I don't care if that's what you do on Saturday mornings with coffee and that's what you limit it to, or you have a social media hour that you go on and do social media work for your company, but don't let it be the time filler anymore. To Bruce's point, look out the window, go sit on your porch, go walk the dog and leave the phone home. I know it'll feel like an eternity to go around the block without that constant update of who's eating what for lunch, but you can do it. We believe in you at the Venture Center. So take that social media break, control your consumption, be deliberate about it. Commit to walking away. Commit to walking away. That means that you have an internal rule that when that stuff on there gets ugly or nasty, or people start throwing the hate in the comments or whatever, that you walk away, because none of us do well with that. When the negativity, the attacks start coming, something happens in our brain. We go from functioning really with the prefrontal cortex, the part of us that thinks and creates and innovates. And when somebody starts coming after us or coming after those we love or the people or the communities we care about, we start operating from the amygdala, which is buried in the back of the brain. The amygdala controls fight, flight, or freeze. And that's what happens in the comment sections of so many of these discussions, right? Is that we become people who are triggered. We're afraid, we're angry, we feel rejected, we feel attacked. And so we stop being rational creatures and start being survival creatures. You have to commit yourself to walking away, to not getting sucked in. It's like, sitting there and saying, okay, hold still while somebody slaps you in the face, but don't get mad and don't lose your temper. We don't work like that. We don't work well when somebody in the comments calls us the worst label they can think of. And then we think we're going to stay calm. We're just not wired. It's not our neurology. I really like the Lincoln letter rule, right? Abraham Lincoln's famous for writing letters that he would then stick in a drawer. And if he still felt like sending it 24 hours later, he would then send that letter. And the vast majority of those letters never got sent. If there's some crazy discussion going on social media, some tweet war where everybody's tagging each other, or something running wild on Reddit or in the Facebook comments, put a day's pause on that discussion for you. If you wake up the next morning and still want to go be part of that discussion, still want to contribute, okay, then do it. But I would tell you that the vast majority of the time as a therapist, when I've processed social media regret, it always involves somebody saying, I know I should have walked away. I know I shouldn't have gotten into that. I should have just, do it. Have that be your rule. Just don't wade into those discussions. When Uncle Bob posts about what's happening with whatever, walk away. If you're still interested in doing that tomorrow, you can wade back in. But I guarantee you, you're going to save yourself a lot of heartache. If you're in the business world and you're working so hard to build brand, my next rule is avoid the politics and religion, hot topics, whatever, talking trash on LSU or whatever it is. It's not worth it, because it only takes one person catching you at your worst moment where you typed your foot into your mouth and screenshotting that and posting it for the whole world to see, or posting it on your Google reviews or posting it to Yelp, and you're done, right? You're now going to have to be dealing with that. Think of how many great businesses, how many celebrities, how many executives spend weeks, months, years picking up the pieces from one dumb comment or even one misunderstood comment. So just decide all the brand that you've worked your tail off to build is not worth making a point about Joe Biden or Donald Trump that the other side does not care about and is not going to listen to anyway. It's not worth putting your business at risk. So as an entrepreneur, give up, forego the right to wade into political, religious, conservative, liberal, who's better on in the Super Bowl type discussions. Just not worth it. Number 7, make sure that it is not part of your wind down routine at night, right? Make sure it is not part of your warm-up routine in the morning. There's 2 pieces of the day besides sleep itself, where our brain really kind of resets and gets its centering, in my opinion. That 30 to 60 minutes before we go to bed, where our brain starts to shut off and we start to let go of everything. And that part in the morning where we wake up and we're either going to be focused or we're going to be scattered all day. I'm sure you've all had that moment where you fight with a loved one, a spouse, a kid, or a valued employee or coworker, and you just can't go to sleep. Like it's eating at you, right? That like we're not right with each other, and it keeps you awake and it disrupts your sleep. Likewise, if I ever leave the house in the morning and I've had a bad interaction with my kid, or I don't feel connected to my spouse, it's hard for me to focus and be creative during the day in the workplace when I'm trying to build a business. The same thing is true with social media. When we're constantly in conflict, when we're constantly biting our tongue, when we during that wind down period that leads to hopefully good REM sleep, or that warm up period where we're getting our brain together before we go out and be creative for the day. When we're injecting into that all these curveballs, all these conflicts, there's no way we're going to be rested or focused. So whatever you do, don't have social media be part of your wind down or your warm up routine for the day. Side note, and I'm not a neuroscientist, so I'm going to tread lightly on this one, but we all are seeing the stuff come out about blue light and how light at different times of the day can affect your sleep, all that kind of stuff. Being on your phone while you're trying to get sleep or trying to prepare for sleep is a recipe for an unrested, less creative, more exhausted, more stressed entrepreneur. Let's see. I would highly encourage you as a marriage therapist to not be on social media when your relationships are in a bad spot. This is the social media version of don't go to the grocery store hungry, right? Probably the last thing I need to do after a really rough month with my spouse is be wandering through my high school sweetheart's social media account. I cannot tell you how many boundary crossings, how many moments of doubt that rock a relationship are moments that started when somebody was at a bad point and went to social media to soothe themselves and found something that was just the opposite of productive for their life. When your life is struggling, whether it's individually or your relationship with your spouse, or you're at odds with a parent or your kids, maybe it's time to take a social media break for a week or two, get some therapy, maybe go read a Brene Brown book, go hike Pinnacle Mountain. It doesn't matter, but probably the last place you need to be is on social media, looking at a bunch of contrived images about people's best versions of themselves, which is the opposite of the way your life feels right now, right? This is the logical equivalent of, I'm having the worst day ever. I'm not sure that I like my life at all. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to a bar and I'm going to get really, really drunk and diminish my critical thinking capacity. How's that a brilliant idea? That's a recipe for disaster, right? So stay off social media when your life is a train wreck. I cannot begin to overemphasize this simple one. This is like the seatbelt rule of social media. Don't unwind with social media and alcohol. More business owners, more spouses, more people have ended friendships because 2 bourbons in, they couldn't help themselves with their response. I kid you not, that alcohol and social media stress are related. We go down the rabbit hole. You're already feeling bad about yourself, and now you see that Jim over here's got 6-pack abs all of a sudden. Good grief. I was already feeling bad. I'm getting another bourbon, right? Like it just fuels itself, and it's again, walking ourselves into traffic. So really, if you're a consumer of alcohol or other mind-easing substances, maybe consider doing those things separately from your social media usage, especially if you have a brand that you don't want to screw up. Let's see. Last but not least, standardize your negative reviews response. As business owners, we get negative reviews. It's the number one thing that people threaten now when they're not happy with my service. If you don't waive this fee, or if you don't do this for me, you're not going to believe the Google review I'm going to write you, right? Like it's become the new form of bullying, is what people can do to us on social media, especially as business owners, especially if you're in industries like mine, where you can't break confidentiality by responding or responding directly. I found a lot of people get themselves in trouble, get themselves stirred up, get themselves, there's been recent incidents around the Little Rock area where business owners' responses to a complaint on social media was twice as bad as the complaint itself. Like, are you serious? You put that in writing. Oh my God. And you can see the sharks coming, right? Like people just lit this person up after that. So standardize your social media response. Decide in advance how you respond to your 2 biggest or 3 biggest complaints. Type it out, cut it and paste it. Maybe even have somebody else do it whose blood, sweat, and tears haven't gone into the business, right, for the last decade. Have your level-headed person who can do it and go home, and they're thankful for the job you give them, but it's not their whole life. Have them respond, right? Otherwise, it becomes a rabbit hole that a lot of us can go down, and it only makes things worse. Keep in mind, right? Social media can be one of the greatest things ever because it can destroy isolation. It connects us with other people. It helps us know that we're not alone, that we're not the only one with stretch marks or kids who are struggling or hate this hot weather. It can also be the thing that exactly makes us feel alone or isolated or bullied. It's something that can turn us into people that we're not proud of. It's a big old raging ocean that you cannot turn your back on. Social media is something that has to be consumed and experienced deliberately, or it will affect your mental health. Avoid deliberate at your own peril. So those are my big tips, and I'll bounce it over to Ashley again, and we'll open it up to Q&A about social media.
You heard the man, and if you've done this, you know what to do next. Leave your questions or comments in the chat. We've been seeing a few comments come through. If you have a question, go ahead and throw that in the chat, raise your hand, use the Q&A feature, and we can ask those questions. Bruce answered this question, but wanted to make sure both of you are aware and allow any extra pieces. Someone was curious about your thoughts on apps like BetterHealth, Talkspace, or Headspace. Have you worked with people that use those? Have you used them yourself? What are your thoughts on those types of apps?
Go for it, Bruce.
Well, when I'm doing this research, I've been exposed to a variety of apps as a mental health advocate, and really doing the research, I just talked with our clinical director here and said, okay, here's a list of 10 different apps. Which ones do you support? And so that's how I arrived at that list. But I am aware of the other ones. I just don't have the experience with them.
So it's a funny one. I'll give you the honest answers. The honest answer as a mental health professional, which is different than what a lot of people in my field feel about it right now. My field is terrified by it, right? Everybody that's done in-person therapy, here comes the disruption, right? One of the mottos in our business is in my company is expect the death of your current model. Here it comes for us, right? That you don't need brick and mortar anymore, all that kind of stuff. So from a business model point of view, I think it's so effective that we're actively trying to figure out how we're going to compete. From a human practical point of view, you know what, wherever you find your connection and help, it's valid. I'm not going to question it, right? Like if that's where you find your connection, then go for it. What's great about them is the accessibility and that you can get on there. For a lot of people, texting is their norm. For my kids, they text me far more than they want to call me. So if things work like that for people, it's great. Here's what I would tell you broadly, though. Whether it's in-person therapy, BetterHelp, Talkspace, any of these, the therapeutic relationship is like finding a pair of jeans or a pair of shoes that you absolutely love, right? That they all kind of look the same, but there's things that just fit you just right. And when you find it, you know it. And that's what I would encourage anybody with any provider. Doesn't matter if you're seeing Ken Clark or somebody at Bruce's place, or you're trying Talkspace. If after 3, 4, 5 times it doesn't feel like a good fit, bow out and try another, right? Date your therapist, if you will. Like it's okay, because it really takes you finding things that work. By the way, they train us as therapists to know that we have really unique reactions to one another as humans. You know, for me, I do really well with the like stern older female therapist. Like for my own therapy work, right? The person who's like, I love you, but you need to knock it off. I'm like, oh, I need that kind of tough love, you know. For other people, it doesn't work. For some people, you know, gregarious guy that was maybe the dad they never have, they love it. For other people, their dad had a salt and pepper beard and was abusive, and so it doesn't work. So find that right fit. It's okay.
Those
I
are
want
great.
to.
Go ahead.
I want
Go ahead, Bruce.
to. I want to share something. It's not a question that came up, but it is. It's something that we have to educate patients and their families when they get here, and that is whether you're inpatient, outpatient, partial, whatever, you're not going to have your cell phone. And that is for some people a real tough sell. We've had, attorneys coming here. We've had, a lot of business owners, a lot of high-powered people, and it's like, no, I've got to have access. It's not part of our treatment modality. It is part of, disconnecting from that aspect of your life is essential to getting people to focus on solving the problems that brought them here in the first place. So that is, we've had some difficult conversations with people who just don't want to give that up, but it's essential.
It's I mean, even in an hour of therapy, it's tough for people to stay off their phones, you know. And it's, even in an hour of therapy, what it means is it's tough to carry a thought or a moment of healing to completion. Bruce talked about that FOMO earlier, right? That the present moment is where we live, but the next moment holds our greatest hopes or fears. And so there's always this competition between, did my phone just vibrate, and what could that mean for me, good or bad, right? And the fact that life only exists right now, right? So good words, Bruce.
Yes, absolutely. And we do have some questions rolling in, so we'll just hit them one by one. So this question says, we all know once it's out there, it's out there. What advice would you give to a business owner if someone, either a client or customer, finds something on social media from years ago?
Yeah, so let's talk about cancel culture, right? I mean, that's the punchline of all this. Is it's not just that you get a thumbs down, but there's the backlash that sinks your business or isolates you or whatever. Regardless of what you think of cancel culture, we generally respect individuals' right to choose who they associate with and who they don't. And I sincerely believe that people are really smart and crowds are really dumb. So I think individuals don't tend to cancel other individuals, but crowds tend to cancel individuals. So first and foremost, I think whenever you have somebody hurt by you or upset by what they've seen, they're going to try and gather a crowd around them to validate what they're feeling. And if you interact with that crowd, it's not going to go well, right? I mean, it's a mob. You've got to cut through the crowd and make eye contact with that person, literally or metaphorically, and care for them, and let them know that what they're feeling, what they see, even if it was from long past, is something that matters to you. I'm going to give you a little tip on apologies that cut across all discussions here. An apology without grief is not an apology, right? Any of you that have kids that have made one kid apologize to another, you know what I'm talking about. Say sorry to your brother. Sorry, right? Like, it's not real. But when you see somebody who's sick to their stomach over what they made you feel, to the point where they say sorry, you have a discussion about it, they leave and they come back 20 minutes later and they're like, I got to tell you again, I'm so sorry. Right? The human response to when it's eating at another person, when it weighs on them, it kicks in. We say, it's okay. Like, we'll get through this, right? You go from being angry at them to actually caring for them, but it requires them to feel grief. And I don't care who you've been. I think it is overcomable if you show grief about it. I was raised in a generation among white privilege. I told so many jokes as a 12-year-old that would get me canceled now. And I can pretend like I didn't say them. I'm thankful that smartphones didn't exist because I wouldn't want to have to defend them now. But I'm at peace with it because that's not who I want to be. And it deeply breaks my heart that I was that guy when I was 12 and I didn't know any better. And I found that I can stand in a room full of persons of color and say, sure, I said things that I absolutely should not say, and I'm mortified, and I don't know if I'll ever forgive myself. And most of them are saying, thank you. Like, we know that happens. Thank you for it bothering you, right? And yet what most people never hear is that. They hear an explanation, they hear whatever. So however you deal with people that have been genuinely wounded by you, if you don't do it one-on-one and you don't do it with a sense of demonstrable grief, it's going to fall flat. It's going to look like gaslighting and it's not going to work. So that's my tip on that, because it's going to happen to all of us. Give it time. It's going to happen. People don't cancel people who get them. People cancel people who don't.
Well said, Ken. And there was another question that someone had. You mentioned lots of examples and tips on how to navigate this social media aspect. And this person wants to know if there's a way to navigate those relationships. Say you have a family member or close friend or someone that is the one posting the conspiracy theories or just quickly responding to people without giving it a thought. If you know that person personally, is there a way to navigate maybe a behind the scenes, not public on social media conversation with that person?
Yeah. Navigate's a good word. That's like navigating a paintball course or something. You're going to take some shots in there. Here's what I believe is at the core of who we are as people is the need for inclusion. It's one of our core survival instincts, right? Whether you believe we were made or evolved, right? Like, we as creatures know to not get cut off from the pack, to not get voted off the island or out of the tribe. And when we approach other people with a complaint about them, it triggers that part of the brain that says you're being rejected, you're not accepted, you're being pushed away. And their natural inclination, their defensiveness, is not really about the topic, but it's about keeping you from isolating from them. So I don't think you can ever navigate those discussions without first reassuring somebody how valuable they are to you, not just that they're loved or indispensable, but that they're liked and enjoyed. And I think a discussion that happens from that point of view has so much teeth to it, because somebody who knows that they're genuinely enjoyed still is very open to knowing how to preserve that relationship. Someone who feels like they're already rejected, they've got nothing to lose by trying to talk you out of your view. So that's what I would say first and foremost. Some of the most influential people in my life liked me first, changed me second. And that's who we need to be for one another, even right now, even across political divides, racial divides, all those things. Find the admirable, find the enjoyable, and then you can talk about what needs to change.
Great advice, Ken. We had another question that just came through. This person says they get on social media first thing in the morning and last thing at night. Any tips on breaking that habit?
Boy, you remember the band The Offspring? They had a great song called "Keep Them Separated." You got to keep them separated. I'll tell you, like there may be all kinds of mental gymnastics to do around this. I'm a therapist. I love mental gymnastics, but the bottom line is the further your phone is from you and your hand, the less likely it is to be a problem. So don't charge your phone on your nightstand. Set it across the room. Use the sleep mode on your phone, so only your emergency contacts, your family members can even text you or whatever. It's become instinctual to roll over and check our phone or to grab our phone for that midnight bathroom trip. The further you keep it away from you, the more that's going to be less of an issue. So I see Bruce appreciating my reference, by the way, to The Offspring.
Absolutely.
That was a big smile. We had another question come through. They just wanted a little bit more clarification on this. How do you deal with social media bullying?
Bruce?
Yeah, I had an experience with this last year. I guess, it was pre-COVID. And it was, I broke Ken's rule, and I added a post that was political in nature, with a link attached to it. And, here comes that angry mob that Ken talked about. And, even though you're on that, it's kind of like this with the chat screen. The people aren't in your room, but they're certainly in your face. And I think for me, I think what I posted was, I thought it was, it really wasn't political, but it had to do with global warming. I'll just say that. And I think I thought I knew everybody on my Facebook page better than I did. And so I was surprised by the vitriol that was unleashed. And, ultimately I stood my ground, if you will, but then I took it down. And then the next day I got some instant messages from people saying, "Hey man, are you okay? That was pretty rough." And it's like, and so that's good. But that was one of those lessons where, again, standing your ground, but then also I did what Ken suggested. I'm like, you know what? I don't need to be friends with these people. If they're going to, verbally bash me in public for a view, then there's no value there in that friendship. So I did a lot of unfriending, unfollowing, and it's happy. I lead a happier life. So I think it's good advice that Ken has given there. I shared an app too. That is something that I became aware of through the Governor's Council on Suicide Prevention and the folks at AFSP, because especially with the younger age. When I was growing up, obviously we didn't have cell phones, so the bullying was really more in your face. But now you can get more people to gather up, as Ken said, and bully people virtually, and it's still just as harmful, if not more so. It's led to suicidal thoughts. It's led to suicides. It's led to homicidal thoughts and homicides. So it's a real problem. The app, like the other apps I shared, that's a guidance and support tool. Ultimately, you're going to need. I would recommend talking with someone like Ken or his clinicians. If it's happening at work, if it happens here at work, it's grounds for dismissal. So
I'll piggyback. You said happy. It made me think of Happy Gilmore. So hopefully Ashley has her censor button here. But so one of the things I work with kids on, middle schoolers and adults with bullying is my Happy Gilmore technique. So if you've seen Happy Gilmore, right, there's the real famous scene where Shooter McGavin says, "I eat pieces of shit like you for breakfast," and Happy Gilmore says back to him, "You eat shit for breakfast?" It's this great moment of like calling out process is what I really call it in therapeutic terms, right? I first learned to do this with my own kids when they would do the I don't want to be your kid anymore. I'm moving out because I don't get an iPhone or whatever. And so I would call out process. I'd look at them and say, so we're doing that thing now, right? Where you make me feel like not loved as a parent, and you're hoping that'll make me give you a phone, and that's supposed to hurt me. And congratulations, it does. Like that hurts, but I'm still not buying you the phone, right? Like that takes all the fun out of bullying, right? Like bullying's supposed to have like this shock value and be in your face. And when you kind of do the you eat pieces of poop for breakfast moment, it takes a lot of the fun out of it. And so with online bullying, right? You want to watch a discussion fizzle and get awkward. When somebody's bullying you on there, say, listen, this seems like we're doing the thing where you're coming after me and it's making me feel like crap, which I don't like. And I think I'm gonna turn around and lash it out at you. Would you be open to grabbing coffee and we can talk through this face to face? And like, then you can hear a pin drop, right? Because the whole point of social media is we can lob these grenades over the fence without having to do human intimacy and connect on these issues and look at somebody as we hurt them. And so it like Shooter McGavin, it takes all the fun out of the statement when you're like, oh, you're really mad at me. Like, we need to sit down and work through this. And they're like, what? No, go away. Never mind. Discussion over, right? So that's called calling out process, or the Happy Gilmore technique. So I'd encourage you to use it. It's really kind of funny, actually, because most people don't know what to do with it when you do it.
There was no censor button, Ken. It's all out there. And now just lives on the internet. You're welcome.
Yeah, there you go. Here I go, getting canceled.
There you go. I wanted to give one last moment. If any other questions come through, go ahead and post those or reach out directly to Bruce or Ken, or shoot me an anonymous note, and I'm happy to pass on that question. Any other final thoughts, Ken or Bruce, as we bring this session to a close?
I think I would circle back to it's a lonely world, and people need to know they matter at its best. Social media involves declarations of worth. I think you, from the comfort of your couch, can make the world a better place by praising your peers, by praising your loved ones, declaring their value. Heck, you want to be a hero, go out and write some good Google reviews today. Go make an entrepreneur heart smile. So there's a lot of potential there. Like all things in the good, like Mr. Rogers said, focus on the helpers, look at the rescuers kind of thing. My admonition, get off here, spend 5 minutes, make somebody's world better before you go on to your next thing today.
Fantastic. And with that, we're going to bring this session to a close. We hope you found value in this as an attendee and participant. And thank you all for the questions. Thanks to always Bruce and Ken for providing some insight on these varied topics that we explore every month. So thanks so much to the Bridgeway and Chenal Family Therapy, as well as our other sponsors, Frost Accounting Firm, Wright Lindsay Jennings, the Little Rock Chamber, and Simmons Bank. Don't forget to use social media for good, and we hope to see you in the future. Have a great Friday, everybody.
See you guys.
Be safe.